All right, hey you guys, welcome back to Taking Flight with me. My name is Mike Rocket Blackstone. Today I'm going to talk about something that all pilots should be aware of as they fly in and around uncontrolled fields. Back in September of this year, of 2024, and September 16th, there was a crash in Minden, Nevada, between a Globe Swift and a Civil Air Patrol Cessna 206. Now, this is an interesting situation that could happen anywhere to anyone. And first and foremost, I'd like to express my condolences to the pilot of the Globe Swift. His name was the man that actually did a lot of work on the Globe Swifts and built these airplanes for a lot of fans of that aircraft. And his name was Don Bartholomew, whose life was lost in this incident. And, you know, as a tailwheel pilot myself, I might be able to shed a little bit of light on this situation. If you're interested in this topic, Juan Brown of Blanca Lirio has done a really awesome, informative piece on it. Based on the preliminary report that I'm looking at here in front of me from this incident, which is very detailed, and I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, as Juan Brown has already done that and done a very good job at it. But I would like to say a few more comments regarding the operation in and around a uncontrolled field such as Minden, which had a runway configuration. There was another runway, a north-south runway, 3-4, and I believe it was 3-4 is the runway they were using. And there was another one, 1, 2, and 3. So it was a southeast runway and a northwest runway as well. So the runway in question is runway 3-4. That was the northbound runway. And it was being used by a Cessna 206 Civil Air Patrol aircraft who was working the pattern and doing some approaches. And the Globe Swift was repositioning from a uncontrolled dirt strip southeast of the field and maneuvering around to land to the north. Well, the first thing you'd see is when you look at the chart of this thing is you know, why did this guy take off from this little airport southeast of the field, not climb up, make a left turn out of his own airport, climb up and just make a right-hand base entry into land on 3-4 and just go kind of straight in? It would have been the shortest route to the airport. But the way the regulations are required us to do, which is what he did exactly. So to fault the Globe Swift pilot for anything other than following what the FARs and what the Airman's Information Manual recommend, which is to take off, even if you're from the southeast of your airport, you should not just go over, intercept the final, and make the right-hand turn in and land on runway 3-4, which would be the fastest, quickest way in. And had he done that, he'd probably be alive today. He'd have been able to see his path all the way in. So he was following the proper procedure. He climbed up, turned westbound, went north along these mountains up over the Tahoe, I think, skiing area, ski poles is what they called it, and then made a turn to the southeast before making his first position report. That was his only failure was his poor radio communications going into an uncontrolled field, which the regs say you should and shall make your first position report 10 miles from the airport. Well, I'm sure the little airport that he took off from is closer than 10 miles. So his first report should have been shortly after takeoff, climb up, switch to the Minden Common Advisor frequency, listen on that frequency to see if anybody's there, and then make some calls in the blind to let people who may be on the ground getting ready to depart hear that you're coming. Literally, that was his only failure here. As a tailwheel pilot of a low-wing airplane, such as the Mustang here, the dangers that begin to occur in low-wing airplanes operating in a uncontrolled field with high-wing airplanes. Now, I don't have a high-wing airplane because all I got is a biplane here. It's got high and low-wing. But he's got double the problems that the high-wing airplanes have, and this double the problems of what a low-wing has is he's got blind vision above and below. And if you think about where the wing is at, how that affects you and you fly. So let's stick with the Swift for a little bit here. when you're flying a tail dragger and a low wing airplane like this, when I make a turn to the left, I'm literally, as I'm banking left, that wing is dropping out of the way and helping me see to the left. And when I'm descending into a pattern, I'm not able to see straight ahead and through my wing. So looking down and towards where I'm turning, I can see forward, but I can't see down. I can't see where I'm going vertically if I'm descending, okay? So a low wing airplane has a visibility issue descending. He could literally descend and descend on top of a high wing airplane, and the opposite is true for a high wing airplane. So now let's switch gears. Now the high wing airplane guy in the 206, he took off out of runway 34. He's gonna make a left-hand turn. And you know, as Juan Brown says in his video, look left, turn left. And right before a high wing airplane makes a left-hand turn, what he has to do, or she has to do, is turn to the right first to raise the wing to take a look, then turn left, okay? And he said a full 65% of all applicants don't do that. They're not raising the wing to look before they go, and they get lazy. And there you are out there in your high wing airplane, and you roll your airplane into a left-hand turn, which is what the 206 had done on the takeoff leg at 5,400 feet. He starts a left-hand turn, blind now, turning left, blocking his field of view. And what's he doing during the crosswind? He's climbing and turning left. And here is our Globe Swift guy descending and turning which way? To the right, to the downwind. Look at this. There's his belly. He literally is going belly up to the area where the danger is, okay, which is where the Cessna 206 is. And look at where this guy's going. He's climbing and going left. Neither guy could see each other at all. Now, as this situation develops and the Globe Swift is entering in the downwind, this is how close they came to missing each other. Now, there's a theory in the airplane world that we call the big sky theory. If you look this up, it's the big sky theory is that it is very unlikely for two small bodies, such as a Globe Swift and a Cessna 206, in the vastness of the area of the sky, that they will find each other, except where planes are honing in to land. Where do planes converge? Now, in the big sky, planes are going all over the place. Nobody knows where anybody's going. They're all going direct GPS now everywhere using ForeFlight and awesome Garmin 1000s and things like that, which is what the 206 had. Technology is a great thing, but the physics and the physical aspect of flying, which makes planes hone in on airports. They've got to land at an airport. So here we were, honing in on the Minden Airport. Two airplanes were heading towards the same point in the sky, following procedures. They were. And this guy, totally in the Globe Swift, was following this path, which clearly took him out of his way, to go way up to the northwest, to come back in on a 45, and then descend to what altitude? Exactly the same altitude that the 206 is heading to. So in my experience, what I fly, and I've had my share, of course, you fly long enough in the Southern California area, you will see another airplane close to you at times. And there have been plenty of times that I've seen other airplanes come in opposite direction. Here's the danger of airplanes coming towards you. And everybody would say you should just open your eyes and look outside, and I totally agree. But sometimes looking outside and then looking down into the clutter of the terrain, into the clutter of houses and other things. A white airplane against a white background or speckled with black and white objects is tough to see when it's below you. So if you're the aircraft above looking down into a hazy or a cluttered background, it is very difficult to see that. The airplane that's going to kill you, the one that's going to run right into you, is the one you don't see, because our eyes are trained to look for movement. So when you look outside your cockpit and you see a plane tracking across your windscreen, that means he's going a different direction. He's not going to intercept you, most likely. It's the one that is not tracking, the one that is honed in on your heading and is not moving. If it's moving just a little bit across your windscreen, he's most likely not going to hit you. He's tracking slightly different than you. But if he's tracking 360 and you're tracking 180 and you are on a collision course, that dot on your windscreen does not move. It is slowly growing at the speed of your closure. And in the planes that I fly now, it could be, we're sometimes doing in excess of 10 miles a minute. And if I'm heading towards another jet, opposite direction, going the same speed, we are intercepting each other at 20 miles a minute. That is extremely high closure, and that airplane would go from a dot to filling your windscreen at the last 20 seconds of this thing would be eye-watering, right? So the danger that you should be aware of is that your eyes should be moving. And as a tailwheel pilot and biplane pilot, I flew biplanes for many years in a Pitts, Waco for many years, something very similar to this. I got news for you. You can't see very good out of this thing. On your best day, it's tricky. And when you fly airplanes that are slow, they kind of squat down like this and the nose is kind of up and they're putting along. You can't really see very well over the nose. So what I tended to do a lot, and I know other tailwheel guys chime in if you recognize this, I tend to do little S-turns along the way. Not to be showmanship, but to be slowly looking for traffic, and also to make my airplane move across somebody's windscreen a little so maybe they spot me, right? So there I am in my yellow biplane flying a high intensity color, easy to see, right? There's a reason for that. Bright yellow, easy to spot. The yellow Waco that I flew was a flying tally-ho, which is what we'd love to have in these airplanes to help us be seen. ADS-B is an awesome technology. It helps planes see. Well, the Globe Swift didn't have that. And we're not required to have that. Not every airplane has ADS-B, especially when you operate outside of the Class Bravo airspace. However, as you can see, it is helpful, and it is a poor man's TCAS system, which we have in the jets today, which give us collision avoidance. And we'll talk more about other mid-air collisions probably on another time, but these types of problems are real. And one of the things we do to help avoid collisions, even in the airlines today, when I fly the North Atlantic track, is we fly SLOP, strategic lateral offset. And you're thinking, why would we do that? These airplanes are capable of flying at high speed through a keyhole. I am talking precision less than 100 feet. Like they are flying like keyhole precision, which means that we could be flying on a eastbound track at 34 or at 350 to the east, and maybe somebody else coming the other way at 360, right, going the other way, 1,000 feet apart, and we are flying exactly on the center line of a track of a lateral pink line, right? So what we do now is we encourage guys, and it's almost mandatory now, but we offset. So if you're flying a track, you go offset 1 or 2 miles to the right to randomly deconflict exact precision head-on passes. For one, the possibility that that they leave the altitude inadvertently, have an engine failure and don't get off the track or whatever to compensate for pilot error possibly, or the possibility of wake turbulence. You could fly under, and this has happened, where you could fly under an aircraft much larger than you at 1,000 feet separation and be exactly on track with them, or slightly off and go through their wake turbulence, which has happened. And an airplane such as a Gulfstream or a small corporate jet flying on the tracks could fly under an A380 and lose control of his airplane by just being that close to the wake turbulence. So you see the reasoning for deconflicting precision that we have now, extreme precision with our GPSs, and now we are adding human slop back into this, literally, to give it more randomized separation of aircraft. But back to the pattern in Minden. So we all know that the pattern altitude is what? 1,000 feet, right? So does it make sense to fly your pattern altitude at exactly 1,000 feet above the pattern altitude? Or if you flew it just a little off on purpose, so that you can be a slightly different altitude than the other guy. Another thing they mentioned so coming into the pattern, why would you come in at exactly 1,000 or be descending to exactly 1,000, especially if you heard somebody in the pattern? Why not fly at 200 high? I mean, maybe I'm breaking the rules, Juan, if you correct me if I'm wrong, but why not fly at 100 feet high and be totally street legal, or 150 feet high and make your pattern slightly different than what other guys are doing, or 50 feet below? I'd always opt on the high side. I flew biplanes and tail draggers. We don't glide well, so higher is always better. Matter of fact, if 1,000 is good, why not 1,500 feet? I could fly it higher because my glide profile is so bad in my pits. It doesn't do a good glide. So I did what the guy did in the Swift, and Juan didn't talk about this, but the reason why a Swift pilot would want to be in close, the wings are small, it doesn't glide well. You put the wheels down, and you're going to keep it close in base. And tail draggers want to keep in close because they can't see well. Once they get this airplane into its landing attitude in a tail dragger, you can't see straight ahead. So a tail dragger pilot never wants to go out to a 2-mile final and fly a 3-degree glide. And in single engine airplanes, they talk about this for a minute here. In single engine airplanes, tail draggers especially, biplanes especially, there is no benefit for me in a tail dragger to fly out to a distance that if I lose the motor, let's say I get out there to a 2-mile final and I close the throttle on my pits, probably in the Swift too. I never flew a Swift, but if you close the throttle in your Swift from 2 miles out, I don't think you'll make the airport. It's once the flaps are out and the gear's down and you go idle and you start to push over for your best glide speed, and you take a look at the area that is not moving in front of you, that is where your impact will be. That's where the touchdown of your airplane will be. We call that the area that's not moving is the place of the crash. That's where the crash will happen. I like to keep in close enough in my tail draggers, in my pits, to help me see. So if you're flying a biplane, let's go back to the biplane for a second. Base to final in a biplane, you would raise the wing, you take a little peek down there to see how it's looking. You'd make your radio call, Pitts 97 Sierra Charlie, turning left base to final. We're close in, and we're making a full stop on runway 34. You make your nice little radio call, tell everybody where you're at, listen to see if anybody's moving ahead of you. Because once I get into groove out there, idle and gliding, now I know I'm going to make the field. I got my left wing down, I got my top rudder in, I'm using the rudder as a speed brake, I'm descending down and I'm looking through the wing. That's where my visibility is. That's where I can see. So that is where I want to be. If I go out and fly my pits like a Cessna 206 out to a 3-mile airliner final, and carry power all the way in and fly it like a twin engine jet, I can't see. So there I am blind all the way in. If anybody pulled out in front of me, I just fly into them. So that's the difference is. Maybe if there was 2 Cessnas out there doing that day on Minden, he'd be descending in, he might put his wing, oh, there's a Cessna. But a low wing descending into the pattern with the wing up, I'm imagining he's gonna keep it in tight. He's coming in, he's got a right turn in, so his wing is up like this, totally blind, descending. These airplanes came so close to not hitting, otherwise both airplanes would be down. There's no doubt in my mind. This is the first time I've ever heard of a midair collision that the other guy, the guy that was below, did not see, recognize that he had a midair, and literally survives the incident. This is not very common to have this happen. That shows how close they came to not hitting. The fact that the tail wheel, if you look at this report that Juan Brown showed, you see the tail wheel is embedded in the cowling of the 206. The tail wheel went inside the engine compartment and got stuck there. The propeller blade chopped the tail of the Swift off. Now, if the Swift pilot had been like me, wearing a parachute, like every time I flew my pits, whether I'm flying across country in that thing or whether I'm flying an aerobatic ride or doing an air show or whatever I did, the the fact that you always wear a parachute could have gave you one more chance, right? One more option. If your plane came apart in flight, and clearly it could have been such a surprise at such a low altitude, maybe the chute wouldn't have helped him at all. But it appears to me that airplane cut the tail off. He lost elevator control and rudder control, right? So once the tail is severed and you lose the tail wheel, most likely he lost the flight controls too. So that would cut the cables to the elevator and to the rudder, and that plane was coming out of the sky just from lack of pitch authority. Had that happened and you had the wherewithal to realize what had happened to you, elevator not moving, canopy jettisoned, seatbelt off, and climb overboard and pull the chute, could have saved him. Right? But I don't believe he ever saw the 206, and the 206 never saw the Swift, but they came so close to missing that it just caught the tail of the Swift on a very high crossing angle. To me, it looks like it would have been something like this. And it just grazed the tail wheel and cut the tail, and the rest of the airplane went over the top of these guys. They never saw it, and it fell in behind him is what it looks like to me. How lucky they were to not be killed by this incident. You know, they're talking that they did everything perfect. I don't think they did. The thing that happened for them that was awesome was just not to panic, keep control, and to make that right-hand turn and go back and land on runway 12 and land without incident, without panicking. I think if they would have known what had happened to them, they may have panicked. Being involved in a midair has got to be extremely stressful. So that's what I have on this incident. Those guys did a good job getting that airplane back down on the ground. Great lesson for, of course, radio procedures. Tail dragger pilots, more vigilant, you guys. Get out there, keep your eyes open, do a lot of turns. Do S-turns while you're turning downwind. Maybe fly a touch high. You've got to remember you can't see as well as the other guy, especially in the descent. If you're working in patterns with other airplanes that work at different speeds and different descent rates and different profiles, that's the heightened sense of danger, heightened sense of awareness. So know that when you're working in an environment like this, that's where the danger's at. Keep your vigilance up. Communications key. Keep your radio dialed in. Make your radio transmissions loud and clear. Be predictable. Report your position and intentions. Tell everybody what you're going to do. Nobody likes to be surprised while they're out there flying. So do that, guys. That's going to keep you much, much safer out there. And the last thing that I'd like to mention is that a wise pilot told me one time, and he told me quite clearly, he said, I hate it when I have to do shit hot flying to make up for piss poor head work. This is one of those times that planning ahead, doing a good vigilant operation of your aircraft would make it so you don't have to do something radical to bring your airplane in safely. Obviously, seeing and avoiding, missing that whole thing would have made a much more pleasant day rather than have to do something wild and extreme to get that airplane back down on the ground safely. So with that, guys, hopefully you've got something out of this episode. I really appreciate you following me and liking this content. If you like it, please share it. If I got anything screwball, if I didn't get anything quite right, go ahead and post that in the comments below. I have made errors. The last video, you guys, thanks for mentioning it. Pressure altitude was wrong. Got it. Thanks so much for noticing it. I made an error and didn't catch it. You guys are the best. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this content with you, and I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching.